Mm-hmm.
4, 3, 2.
Hey, how's everyone doing? This is Bob Gumbs here with the Concerned Forum. And this afternoon, I wanted to do something a little different. As I'm sure everyone knows by now, we have the presidential elections going on. And both parties, Republicans and Democrats, they're doing their thing in terms of the primary. They're lining up all their people, and they have to decide among which of, I believe it's now down to, 16 people. It went from 17 to 16. And eventually, by next fall, I should say, or by the end of this next summer, they have to decide which one of their people will be their candidate for President of the United States. The Democratic Party is doing the same thing. Right now, the clash on the Democratic side of the House is between Hillary Clinton, who is a longtime Democrat, and as you know, wife of President Bill Clinton, and also was a United States Senator. And she is basically contesting between herself and the senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. Now, I must say, in the interest of transparency, I am a Bernie supporter. I have tried to reach out to both the Clinton and there's another person running on the Democratic side for the primary victory, and that is Martin O'Malley from Maryland. And I reached out to both camps, and at this time, both the Clinton camp and the O'Malley camp did not feel that they were able to send anyone to represent where they're coming from. And again, I have to repeat that me, myself, I am very heavily supportive of Senator Sanders for a lot of very good reasons. Hopefully in the future, as we get deeper into the campaign, I'll be able to get people from other camps and even from the Republican side of the House. But I must say, and I'm glad to see that Senator Bernie's people have no qualms whatsoever about coming right up front and saying how they feel. So, first of all, let me introduce, on my right, we have Jackie.
Jackie Sheeler.
There you go.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. We have
Robert Burrow, thanks for having me.
okay, and we have
Mautia, thanks for having me.
okay, and I am so glad to meet other Bernie supporters here in Manhattan. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to basically ask them what and why and how they feel about Senator Sanders and why they feel that he should be chosen at the Democratic primary convention next year. Jackie?
Well, I'd actually like to speak to something you mentioned about how the Bernie's camp was the only one that would send people and the other camps. We don't work for the campaign. We are members of different grassroots groups that have evolved naturally in the flames of passion surrounding Bernie Sanders this election period. There is no grassroots for Hillary Clinton. She's got all the money in the world. She could pay people to come here, but since I heard that she's having her interns pay for their own catered lunches, I guess that's not going to happen. But that's how those campaigns operate. Bernie's campaign is a people-powered campaign, and we are out in the streets, hundreds of us, every single day with flyers and buttons and voter registration forms because we are convinced that the only hope to stop the collapse of America, and if anybody doesn't think America is collapsing, you're not paying attention. Bernie has answers. He may not have all of them, but he's got a lot of them, and I'm not hearing any answers from any other camp, Republican, Democrat, Green, Independent, or otherwise.
Okay.
He speaks for the people, and he has for 30 years. And you go back. He looked doofy in his younger years, yes. But you could dial way back on YouTube and listen to Bernie Sanders talk. And he's talking about the 1%, maybe it was the 5%, in the 70s. This man has flip-flop. He doesn't listen to pollsters. He flies coach. He's on our side because he is one of us. He doesn't live in the billionaire bubble where Clinton and the Koch brothers and Goldman Sachs and the Monsanto heirs live. And those are her people, not us.
Okay.
But we are Bernie's people because he's down here in the trenches.
Okay. Well, how do you feel about that, Robert?
I agree with what you have to say, because I mean, the reason why I became really enthusiastic about learning about Bernie Sanders was because essentially what she said was that he has a grassroots movement of people, independent people, that are actually collectively trying to like get together and try to bring awareness about him, because he is funding money through us, you know. Is he, like she said, Hillary Clinton has, you know, she has millions of dollars that she can use for her own campaign, but Bernie Sanders, he depends on us, the people, to actually spread the word about him. And since he actually has a message of, he's actually trying to help us, that's something that, you know, that caught my attention, because as a low income, I come from a low income family, and a lot of the candidates that are currently running, I don't identify with them at all. For example, Bernie Sanders understands that many college students, for example, like for me, like this is my first year in college, like it's my first semester, I just started leaving college. I couldn't afford to go to any other university. That's really the reason why I went to Lehman. And even in Lehman, I'm still waiting for my financial aid, and I still don't know how much I'm gonna have to pay. As of now, it's $4,000, and that's something that my family cannot do. You know.
Lehman's $4,000 now.
As of now, yeah. Like I still haven't received all of my financial aid, which is just ridiculous. I've been there for like the beginning of the semester, and I still don't have all the financial that I require. So since he is trying to allow students who are qualified to go to public colleges for free through taxes and stuff, that's something that interests me, because as a student I can't pay to go upstate. Like the other school that I was going to go was Plattsburgh University, which was going to cost me $6,000 a year. I cannot afford that. My mother makes $18,000 a year. We cannot afford. I couldn't afford to go there, and yeah, that's something that appealed to me. Other than that, his policies and stuff. And I'm a socialist, so that's something that, again, I like the fact that he's a democratic socialist. I'm not a fan of capitalism. I think it's the concept of capitalism. It's helpful, but it's not. It only helps people in the top, because again, laissez-faire only believes that if you're in the top, you deserve to be in the top. If you're in the bottom, like us, you deserve to be in the bottom. It's something that I don't agree with. That Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Mautia?
I agree with him. I was a student, and now I'm having a very hard time finding work, and I have a massive amount of student loans, and Bernie is really like the only candidate that is talking about that issue. Also, another issue that's important to me is climate change. I feel like immigrants and people of color like me are most affected. I come from a country that's already, Bangladesh, which is already facing, tough challenges due to climate change. And, I see it in Detroit, for example. I see when, millions of people in Detroit from poor communities, can't don't have access to clean water or water. However, but golf courses and the 1%, they're still running their fountains, and that is like an effect of capitalism, and that is the result of our government catering to the 1%. And climate change is one of those issues. When there's a drought, when there's a lack of resources, we're going to be the first ones affected. The minority community, the immigrants. And, Bernie Sanders wants to get rid of income inequality, give middle class the power that it deserves, give them back their position in this country that they once held, the powerful working class. And that's why I support him. He supports young people like me who currently don't have a prospect of owning a home or a family because of all these, all the debts that we have. We're the debted generation, and that's why I really support him. He is the only candidate right now speaking about that issue?
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that really sold me on Bernie, what I like about him the best is that unlike most of the candidates, especially on the Republican side of the House, they have systematically sold, folks a bill of goods. And I'll tell you exactly what I mean. Now, Roberto, you were just talking about college, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of winced when you told me that Lehman has gone up to $4,000.
And it's increasing every year.
Yeah.
And the SAT qualifications to be admitted to the school are also increasing because they're trying to get students with higher income families.
Right. See, that angers me. And I'm angry that a lot of folks in the Democratic leadership, I mean, it's nice that they're really starting to be noticeable, raising hell now. I'm a veteran, Vietnam and First Gulf War. And now, don't get upset. City University, because Lehman is a part of the city system. And no, I'm not that old. Okay. No, first time I went in the service, I went in when as soon as I hit 17. What happened is that a terrible joke was played on the working class people of New York. Because when I went to City College, you didn't pay anything. Okay, it was for free. That was it. You went to a city university.
It was like $100 a year, like a student enrollment fee or something.
Yeah, you had a student enrollment fee.
And
community
SUNY
college,
too,
Yeah.
State University too.
You didn't
Good
pay.
old days.
Yeah, and see, that's why I get angry. I believe that somebody had brought that up very quickly at one of Hillary's press conferences, and she kind of winced. And I said, see, that's not good because you're giving the impression that the idea of free tuition is pie in the sky. No, it's not pie in the sky. Most of the state colleges in this country, you didn't pay tuition, all right? California, they had a wonderful university system, okay? And you went there for free. Okay, until these corporate capitalists.
Ronald Reagan, say it.
Yeah,
that's when
say
it
the
changed.
truth.
Him too. Yeah, you're right. That's right.
Saint Reagan,
right,
to
Saint
screw us
Reagan.
all.
Yeah, that's correct. And see, I'll tell you something else that bothers me. Hillary, she has a good points now. Don't get me wrong, because I've been watching this rodeo since I was about 5, and I started up in the Republican family. My dad was the district leader for the Republican Party right around your area, west side of Manhattan. Okay, he was the district leader, but see, that was an entirely different Republican Party. What you have now are basically a collection of corporate moguls, fanatical religious fundamentalists, bigots, sexist, homophobes,
To be fair, we
anti-modernists.
probably have them in both parties.
Yeah.
The thing about the difference with the GOP is that that's the preferred view. That's actually approved. Look at Donald Trump. If racism wasn't popular amongst the Republican Party, how the hell would a dodo like Trump be even talking to anybody? It's insane.
Yeah,
He's straight up with his racism, and they're all applauding on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So that tells me all I
Yeah.
need to know about what the Republican Party is about. And you know what? We get Bernie Sanders this nomination. And when I say we, I mean we, because he doesn't get it alone. He says it in every speech.
Right.
We have to do it. It's not just him. If we work with him and he gets the nomination, the presidency is guaranteed. There's not one amongst that whole crew of however many dozens they have running now that can go head to head in a fair debate about the issues with Bernie. Because not one of them even knows what they're talking about. They're worried about their Bibles and their ovaries and their, and who, I'm not going to give a marriage license to this one. And come on. And meanwhile, the climate, the world is sinking, the glaciers are melting, and they're carrying on about, gay marriage. Are you serious?
There are more important things to deal with than those issues.
There is no GOP platform.
And my parents are conservative Muslims, and for them that is an issue as well. They're not for. They're very pro-choice. Life. They're pro-life.
They're anti-choice.
They're also, but they understand that these are social issues, and we live in a secular country where the government should not dictate what you do or what you choose to do behind closed doors. And on top of that, it's like we're not dealing. But however, we're making bribery legal. Like we're legalizing it with Citizens United, and we're letting the 1% destroy the middle class, and we're not doing anything for the poor. We have homeless people. The homeless people is on the rise. Homelessness is
and
homelessness is on the rise.
Illegal.
Especially here.
The park closes at midnight. Why does the park need to close?
You can't feed the homeless. You can't give them any money. You can't do it in the subway. If not, you can get a fine.
Right, I understand that. But see, now, this is what you folks, you good, well-intentioned young folks have to tell me.
Including us good, well-intentioned old folks.
Yeah, well, I consider you a youngster, Jackie.
Yeah, we are biological peers.
Okay. Here goes the problem that I see. And that problem is, I don't want anybody to get offended. Working class white people, okay, that is the biggest problem because it is they who go out and vote for these Republicans. It is they who, if you say, well, Bernie Sanders, Democratic Socialist, they make the sign of the cross and all this other weird stuff. That's the problem. How do you convince these people? How do you go out there to Staten Island? Because that's our little grove of right wing.
Well, it's all cops and firefighters, and the union tells them vote Republican. My dad was a cop, and that's how it always worked, and he just voted the way he was told, as most cops did. That could change. Bernie is so pro-union, and all of the police are union members. All of the firefighters are union members, and Bernie is union through and through. And the collapse of the unions in this country, when we started buying everything from China or the lowest bidder and the Nike sweatshops and in Bali and wherever, I mean that's where we lost our lifeblood. You can't find a union shop now in New York. You want to do some union printing? If you're not looking at like 500,000 copies of some fancy 4-color brochure for Cadillac, they don't really, it's not they don't want your business, but they're scaled to that because there's so few, so they're all the big financial printers and stuff. You're not going to find a local mom and pop print shop really, and if you find a larger one, it's going to be very large, it's going to be unionized, and it's going to be unaffordable because the unions have shrunk so much. If the whole country was unionized, if the fight for 15 succeeds, and Bernie fully supports the fight for 15, he's totally behind that, raise the national minimum wage to $15 an hour, and watch some of this stuff start to take care of itself.
So Bob, I just have to say that it is true. Working, I think it's because of these divisive rhetoric both the Democrats and Republicans use, which is they blame each other. However, during the Reconstruction era, the working white middle class got along with the working people of color, and they did so many great things, more progressive than some of the things that we are doing now.
So you know about that.
Yeah, and
very few people do.
So I I just feel like, for example, right now in Vermont, Bernie is actually leading on the Republican poll. So I think right now the issue is getting young people my age to come out and vote for somebody that resonates with their that talks about their struggles and resonates with them. And I think that's Bernie. I think it's really important that we young people, especially the minority communities, come out and vote for someone who's on their side, who's working for them, who's fighting for their issues. And I think that's the issue right now. The Republicans, I think they'll knock themselves down on their own. I mean, come on, Trump is running. There are polls that show that if Bernie and Trump were to go head to head, Bernie would win. So that's proof right there that even though there is a strong vocal group of bigots out there, and yes, some of them are the working white middle class families voting for people like Trump, there's still a small number compared to the amount of support that Bernie has, which is both Republicans, Democrats, young people, old people, people of color, immigrants. I mean, it's just a matter of us coming together, like during the Reconstruction era, and saying no more divisive rhetoric, no more divide and conquer. We're gonna come together to take on the billionaire class.
And adding,
hold on 1 second. I want to ask each one of you something. Now, tell me something. We've had Barack Obama in office for almost 8 years. I was a volunteer. Even when I couldn't walk before my spine surgery in '08, I'd be rolling around in my wheelchair in the campaign headquarters, working the phones and what have you. And in '12, I went to Philly and to Ohio for them. But tell me something. What mistakes would you not want to see Bernie make? I'm not going to say if. I'm going to say when he gets in the White House.
For example, Obama, he promised that he was going to help the minority community, especially against mass incarceration. And he essentially did the complete opposite. First of all, he revived the Byron program, which was a program that was used to fund police departments and stuff to gain more like equipment and stuff. And that program was actually proven to not really work to actually stop crime. But it does work in capturing a lot of minorities, specifically minorities like Hispanics and blacks. That's something that I criticize Obama in, that I'm not very fond with him. Another thing was that he did try to lower the crack cocaine, the disparity between cocaine, powder cocaine, and crack cocaine. It's now an 18% difference, but that's still not enough. It's an 18% difference. That means if you're caught with an amount of crack cocaine, if you have 80 times more, 80 times less than whatever the powder cocaine, the sentence will be more, 18 times harsher, which doesn't make any sense because it's the same drug, it's just in different, a different.
And you don't think Bernie would make a mistake like that?
Yeah, no, I think
he would fix that.
Yeah, I think that's because again, he's targeting private prisons, which are getting millions of dollars every year. And how do they do that? They need more prisoners. And where do they get their prisoners? From Black and Latino communities, predominantly low-income Black and Latino communities. And that's something that he's constantly saying that he's gonna address, and he's gonna make it illegal. And that's something that has to happen. For example, in New Orleans has the highest, private prison like incarceration rate in all of the United States, right? And they just it's like a small group of people that own all those prisons, and they just constantly keep making more and more money through all these like policies like drug policies and blah 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 blah, and all these small little things that make people end up go to prison, and when they come out, they are still punished. It never ends. It's a cycle that never ends, because once you come out, if you're caught for a drug offense, after Bill Clinton's change in the way
3 strikes.
Yeah, the 3 strikes, and not just that, his change in the welfare program. If you're caught with a drug or like cocaine or whatever, you are permanently banned from receiving public housing, from receiving food stamps, from receiving all these.
It's insane.
It's like once you're done with your sentence, you should be done with your sentence. You shouldn't.
Right.
You should. Why is it that I have to keep being punished for something that I did in the past? And again, the prison system is an entire other problem that we have to fix, because it's not rehabilitating people. It's just getting people into prison, out of prison, and back into prison. Because once they're out of prison, they lose their homes, they lose their jobs, they can't do anything. And most of the time when they're in probation, they can't go to the probation officers because they don't have enough money to actually meet up with their probation officers, and guess what? They get arrested again, and the cycle continues, and it never ends.
And it's not an accident.
And it's not an accident; it's on purpose. And this is what it's called the system
Systemic
of
racism.
systemic racism. It's a new system of.
It ain't new.
It's not new. It's not new. Yeah, it's not new. But it's a new way of suppressing the black Latino men and also the white men, because the white people are also, they're also part of this, because if the system was only arresting black and Latino men, then we would all be like yelling racism because it's blatant, right? But since they are also getting white people, then it doesn't seem as, it doesn't seem as racist. Like that's a cover-up in a colorblind society that we currently are living in. Yeah.
Now let me ask you guys something. Something happened in July.
Well, I want to answer the question you asked.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Because you asked what mistake Obama made that I don't think Bernie would make.
Right.
And the biggest mistake I think Obama made was the choice to not be a one-term president. With the mandate that he had in 2008, with virtually people climbing on top of buses to celebrate the fact that he was elected, and he immediately toned it down once he got in office as to not piss off the establishment, because he knew he was going for that second term. And I didn't vote for him the second time because he authorized NDAA, the Indefinite Detention Act, and that to me was such a betrayal. I can't vote for anybody that would sign legislation like that.
I agree.
However, his second term, I feel he did a much better job than his first term, and it's because he doesn't have to soften it, tone it down for anybody. I have no way of knowing, obviously. Like Bernie doesn't call me at night to tell me what his plans are. But I've been watching him, following his political movements for years.
Yeah.
I don't think there is any way he would go in there believing or wanting 2 terms. I don't think he even wants this one. He's running for us, not for him. Hillary's running for her. She's been wanting to be president, my God, since before you were born, Robert. Forget about it. It's all about her. It's all about, I deserve it. I was humiliated. I got it coming. I have the experience. Nobody's got it coming, and at least from me, she doesn't get extra points for the fact of having ovaries. But I don't think that Bernie would go in looking for 2 terms. Bernie's going to go in the way he always goes in. Both guns blazing, executive orders zinging, kicking ass to Congress, taking names, and just not pandering to anybody. He never has. He never will. He didn't do it as senator, mayor. He's not going to do it as president.
Yeah, who
he's
would he
afraid of
pander to?
nobody because he's beholden to nobody. He don't take no dirty money. He don't take
We
no
like
dirty
this here. Yeah, I like this. Tell me something. Do you accept the apology? That's what I was going to throw in. Oh, you didn't know about that? In July, a lot of people don't know about this because, let's face it, the Clintons know how to use the press.
Yeah.
And he released it on a time when there was not really that much national news. He apologized, I believe, for signing the welfare bill. Now, I do believe he had already apologized for that sometime back. But he also apologized for the incarceration rates of black and brown men. Because, you remember, when he first went in there, to show the good old boys that he was really still one of them.
Strong on the war on drugs,
that mandatory sentencing. They were the ones that gave it, the Clintons were the ones that gave it that big push. The thing with the crack as versus poly cocaine. They were the ones that were pushing all that stuff. And the thing that wrecked the economy almost.
The repeal of Glass-Steagall. Thank you, Bubba Clinton.
Yeah.
And that's another reason we can't have another Clinton dynasty administration because, let's face it, the balance of power in that relationship, we know who's in charge, and it isn't Hillary. So now you got Bill in the White House as a wild card, and who knows who he owes what to. We already know, his honorable level and his personal life can be questioned. And now, he's a retired president. He doesn't have nothing to prove or gain from anybody. So he basically can do whatever the hell he pleases. And frankly, the first dude should not be a former president. period. And I think if we ever had that situation, it would be followed shortly after with legislation saying that it cannot be done. You can't be, a first lady, a president, and then a first lady, like if it was backwards, or a president and then a first dude, because the balance of power is off. It's just not. Who could say no to Bill Clinton? Who in this world? Not too many people. And we already know his wife doesn't know how to say no to him. So who's going to be running that White House? Come on.
So Bob, the way I feel, yes, okay, I would accept the apology. However, when you hear about Eric Garner, when you hear about Rekia Boyd, when you hear about Michael Brown, all these people that have died because of these terrible, terrible policies, it's really hard, right? It's so hard to forgive. But what's even worse is that, right now, Hillary Clinton doesn't have a good racial justice agenda. Bernie, if you go on her website, she has her racial justice agenda is literally, it's so small, you can turn it into an infographic, into a meme, and versus Bernie talks about, economic violence. He talks about political violence. He breaks it down. He breaks down each structure, each institutional structure that is, that causes, that is the result of Eric Garner, that leads to the death of people like Eric Garner and Mike Brown and Walter Scott. And that's what's important. Apology, great. Thanks for apologizing. But what are you doing? What have you done so far to fix your mistakes? And I think, if anything, because, Clinton were behind these terrible policies, they have an obligation to come out even harder to, solve the issue. And, frankly, I respect her, but she hasn't done that. So
I'm going to ask you guys something now. And then I'm going to ask it just a few minutes before we finish. Here goes the question. What would happen, God forbid, if Bernie did not win at the convention and Hillary got the nomination? Or if Joe Biden got in the race?
Oh, man, Joe Biden.
And, I see all kinds of possibilities. Joe and Hillary, or possibly Joe and Elizabeth Warren. Okay.
She's not. She said she's not gonna.
We need her in the Senate.
We need her in the Senate.
She knows
yeah.
she's needed. She's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe and Bernie.
Well,
would you see that as a possibility?
I wouldn't see it. No.
Why would Bernie want to be VP?
It's not even that. It's just that, first of all, Joe Biden, he's a big war mogul, and that's against Bernie's, it's completely against Bernie's ideals. So
that's where you might trip. And see, this is what kind of concerns me, because actually, when you had Barack, Joe Biden, and you had Hillary, when she was there, Secretary of State, who do you think the warmonger was? It was Hillary. Remember Libya? Y'all, I know you old enough to remember that.
Absolutely.
We went into Libya.
Well, it's not her decision.
No, it wasn't her decision. But in the meeting, she was the one that did the most pushing. She pushed Obama.
But again, like you said, and
war.
also remember, like you said, she's really good with publicity. She knows what people want to hear. She doesn't think based on what she actually believes. For example, when she was against gay marriage, she secretly supported gay marriage, but when she was in the public, she would say, no, I'm against it. Why? Because she knew the majority of the public was still against it. And I don't want a president that's gonna, submit herself. Exactly, yeah, she's gonna ride through the presidency because, I want people to like me. No, I want somebody who's gonna do the right thing and who's gonna bring policies that are actually gonna bring change.
Okay.
And if she wins, we're not going to see anything different.
This is what I have to say about, if, let's say, Bernie doesn't win, I think it's really important what he's doing, which is building up a grassroots movement. Obama disbanded the grassroots movement after he won. Right now, Obama, we've spent so much resources building him up. However, as you can see, currently people are doing the opposite, where we're building up our own power. You know, we're just everyday people organizing for Bernie and building up our own power.
Okay.
So even if he loses, we will have a grassroots movement that can push policies that are anti-war, that can push for legislation that, you know, gets rid of debt, that jails bankers, that can tackle these issues. And Bernie can do that. Elizabeth Warren can do that. You know, anyone can do that. And we will lead ourselves to victory.
But as
regardless.
far as the election is concerned,
Yeah.
would you, boom, Hillary is the nominee of the Democratic Party. November 2016, will you vote in that election?
Yes.
And will you vote for Hillary if she is the nominee?
I would vote for Hillary. I would, because at least I know that through us pressuring her to change her policies, like I said, she does what she thinks is correct. You know, she doesn't really do what we really.
She does what her billionaire masters tell her to do.
Yeah.
There are no circumstances whatsoever under which I would cast a vote for Hillary Clinton.
But the
None.
problem with that is that then
None.
there's a higher chance for the Republican candidate to win.
And then we have a revolution because everyone on the Republican ticket, one is stupider than the next. Not a single one of them could possibly run this country.
It's true.
And things are already bad enough. Let the Republicans get in power. It'll be bad enough that, okay, you didn't want the political revolution with Bernie, you're going to get revolution another way.
Right.
That is where we are heading. There's no middle ground here. The country is falling apart.
Yeah.
The world is falling apart. And here's my public service announcement. If you agree with us here and you want to vote for Bernie in the New York State primary, October 9th is the deadline. Yes, October 9th of this year.
Yes.
You
So next
must
week.
change
Yeah.
parties by October 9th. That means the Board of Election has it before October 9th. It doesn't mean you stick it in the mail then. This only applies to if you're already registered to vote in this state. If you are not registered as a Democrat, change it right now because the deadline, and that applies to our primary next April 19th, the deadline to change your party is October 9th, and that applies if you're a Green, if you're an independent, if you're a working families party, if you're unaffiliated, if you're Republican and you like Bernie, now is the time to do it.
There
You
you
don't
go.
have to tell anybody.
Yes.
You know, just switch.
Yes.
And this
This is
way you
good.
have your choice. You can vote in the primary for whomever you want. And I know once everybody's had more of a chance to hear Bernie speak,
Yeah.
we haven't talked about the corruption of Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the DNC deliberately suppressing the debates until after the deadline. You think it's a coincidence the first Democratic debate is October 13th, 4 days after the party switch deadline?
Okay, I was going to ask you folks also, how do you feel? How do
Right.
you feel about what's going on in terms of the Democratic Party infrastructure? In terms of what's happening down in D.C. with the DNC. Now, do you feel that they're trying to work, outwardly work against Bernie? I mean,
Trying.
come on,
They have succeeded.
Every time he's on television, they never mention anything about
That's
him.
a separate issue. This
Yeah,
is about the
okay.
debates, though.
Yeah, but I'm just every time he's on television, Hillary, what do you think about Hillary? They don't care. They already think he lost. They're
No,
trying.
they don't. They're following the money. They have to.
Yeah.
The money follows the money. So the mainstream does what Hillary wants them to do because they want to be on the right side
Exactly.
of her overlords.
Well, I just find it very, it's a little bit sketchy, is the word I would use for a lack of
Okay.
better word.
Criminal.
Is that, last election, yes, there was also 6 debates. However, you were allowed to hold debates outside of the DNC. And they know Bernie is one of those people that caucuses with everyone, and I think, having that like exclusivity rule where it's like you can't have debates outside of the DNC, and if you do, then you're disqualified to run in the primaries. it's just such a violation of our democracy. It's like, it's unfair that, the Republicans get to get their terrible, bigoted message out there to the public every month. But, we actually have a solid message, an important one. And it's proven that every time someone listens to Bernie talk about income inequality, about, the institutional racism, people hear it and they respond very positively. So they're hurting their own party, and I would want to ask why.
Okay, let me ask you three right here, right now. What do you want the DNC to do?
Get rid of the exclusivity clause, at least get rid of that clause.
And schedule a debate for tomorrow.
Yeah, and schedule more debates.
Exactly.
But if they can't do that, get rid of the exclusivity clause.
And get rid of Debbie Wasserman Schultz,
And
because she
her
has
too,
already
yeah.
shown herself to be utterly
I
corrupt.
feel like it's conflict of interest. You cannot be.
She's best friends with Clinton. She wants Clinton to win, so she gets some ambassadorship or some bullshit in the next administration.
You can't
that
be
is
the
all this is about, and that is totally corrupt.
You can't be the campaign manager of Hillary Clinton of 2008 and then, be the chairman of the DNC and make these hard decisions that is not you. That's not up to you to make. It's up to for you to listen to the people.
Okay, now let me ask three of y'all this question again. Do you three feel that people who are supporting Senator Bernie, should they, if they feel that we're losing the nomination because of chicanery, skullduggery, pure funkiness on the part of the DNC, would that in and of itself be a reason not to vote in November?
I personally
Or put it this way, not to vote for the Democratic ticket in November.
I personally think we should still vote Democrat and for Hillary, follow Bernie's lead and support Hillary, only because the Republicans are just scary.
If they win.
God. Oh. However, the concessions will need to be made, and I would tell the Democratic establishment that you may have the presidency, but you will not have the local elections. You will not have young people coming out and support Democratic candidates in local elections.
You know what? There's a problem with that. Now, I see is I'm born and raised here in New York, like I said, and the problem that I see is that you have a machine here. You have a Democratic machine here, okay? If you and I don't show up to vote, unfortunately, okay, they will find some, no disrespect to the elderly, I'm getting there myself, they will find some elderly person, churchgoer, all right, who the preacher knows the particular assemblyman or congressman for that area, okay? If they got that person's vote and a few others like them, if all of us progressive thinking people say, well, the hell with it, we're not going to participate in this nonsense, they're going to still get back in office. So what do we do? That's my question for the three of you. What do we have to do to make the progressive weight, the progressive voice of voters be felt in the, not just with the Republicans, but also within the Democratic Party?
We have
what
to
do we
elect
have to
Bernie
do?
Sanders. It's that simple. We
Okay.
have to elect Bernie Sanders.
I
Okay.
would say join a grassroots movement. We actually started one. It's People for Bernie, and the idea is to build people power, not just behind Bernie, but behind ourselves. Because after the election, in case he doesn't win, we're going to need a grassroots movement all over locally, and you have these local grassroots movements popping up. Brooklyn for Bernie,
We have
Queens
Team
for
Bernie
Bernie,
NY.
Team
Team
Bernie
Bernie NY.org is
Yes.
like the overall umbrella group for New York.
Yeah, exactly. So there are local groups in different states that are popping up, and they're all behind Bernie. But let's say but they will have lots of influence when local elections happen. During local elections, they will be able to rally behind progressive candidates and have an infrastructure to fight these established democratic machines. And I think that's
all right. Well, you guys tell me this now. Do you guys have, I'm a member of Three Park Democratic Club, okay? Do you guys, Team Bernie for New York, do you folks have regular meetings now, or what do you have?
Yeah.
Well, we have regular meetings, and we also have a new communication channel called Slack, and that has helped us tremendously. The campaign guided us toward it. The campaign itself is using Slack. It's it's an app. It's like it's a closed chat app, so you invite people, you have your different rooms and whatnot. There's a few other types, but Slack is the one that was chosen by the campaign, and it's now propagating out. They have their own, New York has one, and college students for Bernie have one.
Right. Could you tell the folks a little more about that?
Well, it's an app. It's a communication application. So we had been talking through Facebook and email and Twitter, but those are not. If you've tried communicating through those methods, it can get very confusing.
Yeah.
The beauty of Slack is it's a closed system for the people who are using it for a particular purpose. And those people, we can have a subgroup that would be coders or designers or the street activities and whatever. But just having that, it only came around less than 3 weeks ago. The kind of, people use the word super volunteers. I don't know if I love that word. It's okay. But the people that are grassroots in the street all the time for Bernie. I'm not talking about somebody that says, oh yeah, I like Bernie at a cocktail party. I'm talking about people schlepping tables down to subway stations with voter registration forms, right? Now we have, there were many, many small groups, large groups all around the city. Now we talk to each other. Many of us were going to the other organizing meetings, but this is immediate. And it's like, hey, do we want to get together and do this? We pooled our resources and got a bunch of flyers printed a lot more economically than we could in small batches. So we're able to do a lot more that we haven't done, and Slack has been a tremendous help to us in that. It's a tremendous organizing tool.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. This sounds exciting, and it sounds very good. I'm an elderly person. We're pretending, of
course.
Would
you tell us, please, how old you are? Would you mind?
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm over 55.
Me too.
Okay.
So stop with the old already, okay?
You'd be surprised with the difference that makes to people out here. Especially, I'm quite sure in the job market.
Well,
I already got
what job market? I don't get interviews anymore, and I don't care. You know what? I need my time for Bernie. And if I got to spend whatever retirement shekels I got put aside in the meanwhile, then that's just what I'm going to do.
I like you. I like her. You got to come to Three Parks. I swear to God, because you would definitely shake things up. Well, you're a registered Democrat, right?
As a matter of fact, I'm a Democratic office holder, although the most minor office you could possibly find.
Okay, what are you?
I'm a county committee seat. I'm a member of the county committee in my election district, which is AD 70, Part D 06, which is one of the, which is an election district that was so mangled by Charlie Rangel, gerrymandered in order to get Marisol Alcantara, who was our very progressive district leader, in order to cause her to lose her seat this fall, and that's exactly what happened.
Okay. Well,
we ain't gonna miss him uptown.
I'm gonna tell you right now, we gotta talk about this later. But no, seriously, because you got some good information for me. But I will say this: I love Charlie as a veteran. I love him because I'm an old-time Harlemite, okay? And I love him because he is a Democrat, like myself. However, I have been very disappointed in what has come out of Charlie's office here these last 10, 12 years. Since I've been back.
He's long overdue to retire. He said he's retiring after this, so...
I would have to agree with that, quite frankly.
I felt like he should have stepped down with the whole scandal about the rent-stabilized apartments, but whatever.
Well,
whatever.
As somebody that's just far from being homeless, I understand your feelings. Okay, but see, this is not a sidetrack. on the issue of Bernie and his campaign.
This is about progressives versus Democrats because it's
Exactly.
not one the same.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and see, what I'm trying to figure out, okay, is how we're, what are we going to do about that? Because that's going to be the problem. Now, we can take the Republicans. They're morons, okay? They're very dangerous
Well,
morons.
yeah, I mean, we all remember George Bush. He was a moron, and he ended up in the
He
White
still
House
ended up-
nevertheless.
Yeah,
So,
because he, unfortunately, in certain parts of the country, and that's one of the things I learned, the military really gave me an education about that, because you go down south, and then, I married down there, God rest his soul. My late wife was from Southern Virginia, and you listen to people there, and you talk to people, and, you go to war with people, their uncles and their older brothers are Klansmen, and you listen to their mentality, and you can understand why somebody would be hardly or not educated enough to vote, to avoid voting for someone like a George Bush Jr. You heard of the book, right? What's the Matter with Kansas? Okay, that goes for a good part of the. Look at all the people that are, supporting Trump. Now, I've known Trump from the time Trump became Trump.
you mean like
Okay.
when we bailed him out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially. Yeah, I'm a native New Yorker. He's been a pain in the butt from the time
Since Bella Abzug.
Oh yeah, remember Bella?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're all right. I like her. Yeah. But this is the problem. How are we gonna breach the wall of ignorance in this country? Now, you came from Bangladesh straight here, right?
Yeah, when I was really young.
Okay, so you really haven't traveled, person. I mean, you come from the other side of the world. You
She came from
traveled.
Bangladesh. She
Yeah.
traveled more than many people I know.
I mean, but traveled in the United States.
I traveled the East Coast mostly, but yes.
How far down south?
Like Florida.
Miami?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not the south. Florida is weird, by
I've
the
been
way.
in Virginia, though. I've been,
Yeah.
my brother, he goes to school in Virginia, so.
Oh, there you go. My daughter, she went to William and Mary.
He goes, he's in UVA right now, so.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I've been in that area. Like, I've seen, parts of the South, maybe not like deep South, but even in Florida, when I went there, I went to like Boca Raton and like other parts that were very like, people were carrying around guns.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
see, I was stationed in Jacksonville, and that's North Florida.
Yeah.
And North Florida, Florida's a trip because Florida, the further south you go, the cooler it is. Miami to me is like the Bronx with palm trees.
Yeah.
When you go up, like Jacksonville, oh man, that's like being in Mississippi, Alabama. As a matter of fact, that's what happens in the Navy and Marine Corps. A lot of the guys who are from Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, they all try to get stationed in Jacksonville. Or on the other side? What's the Tallahassee? That's what they try to do because they're right there in that general orbit. But when you go down to Miami, it's like, to me, it's like being home. Everybody speaking Spanish, French patois, Yo, what's up, baby? Hey, I'm cool, right?
Bodegas everywhere. And
Yeah,
stuff.
but you go up
And then
to,
they smoking the bath salts.
there you go. But you go up to Jacksonville, oh man, it's like Operation Jim Crow,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm for real. But see, this is what we have to break. This is the cement wall that we have to break in this country. Because the first thing, and I wanted to bring this out also, how do you guys feel about this? How you guys plan to handle this? I can't vote for Bernie Sanders because he's a socialist. Okay? How would you guys handle that?
Well, I don't have a soundbite answer for that. My response to that is to have a conversation with the person.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to try to watch out now.
Oh, there you go.
I want to
always do
understand
this.
why they see it as such an evil thing and then speak to that. And I think part of the problem is, I mean, socialism and communism for a lot of years were used interchangeably.
Yeah.
Even though they're not at all the same. But Soviet Russia, you know, people would call it socialist as much as communist. Many of us, I know you did, I know I did, we maybe spent our teen years like laying awake in bed at night wondering would tonight be the night that the bombs would come and doing the bomb shelter drills and all that.
Under the table,
Exactly. And I lost my train of thought because the table almost fell over.
Yeah.
But if someone wants to finish it for me, they can.
I was going to say, you know,
Your parents, how do they feel?
they're not a big fan of, well, for them, they're kind of, you know, also afraid of
Are they registered
socialism.
voters? I'm sorry, I didn't even ask you that. Are they registered voters?
I actually just registered them. They were
Okay, good.
unaffiliated before,
Uh-huh.
like a lot of immigrants. So they just registered, so they'll be able to vote for Bernie.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But, yeah, so, you know, like, I think for young people, at least, it's not a big deal. For my parents' generation, for some reason, the word socialism is a big deal. But, you know, I tell them, like, how, you know, capitalism in their country has completely destroyed. You know, you have Rana Plaza, which the 1,000 people were burned to death. You know, that's because of, you know, low wages, workers getting and that's a symptom of capitalism. So when I
And
talk to
trade
them,
agreements.
and you know, when I also talk to other Democrats about, you know, Hillary versus Bernie, I don't ever like make them feel like, oh, because they think Bernie's not going to win, that they're horrible people. What I try to tell them is, look, just look at their donor base, just follow the money. Would you want someone who is beholden? At the end of the day, like, I know if I was getting money from this corporation, I obviously would have to do things for them. And that's like any person, whether it's Hillary or even like just a regular person. Whoever gives you more money, you obviously have to do stuff for them. Otherwise, why would they give you this much money?
Yeah.
And it's like, at the end of the day, like, just pick the candidate. Even if you don't think he can win, just pick the person that is not beholden. And, you know, if everyone were to have that attitude, then Bernie would win.
Well, I'll tell you this quickly, that to show you the difference in countries, do you know yesterday in Brazil, the Supreme Court in Brazil made it illegal to do what we do here in elections. This whole thing about getting $1 million from
The Koch brothers,
Koch
$1 billion.
that kind of thing,
I just
You can't do that. If you do that in Brazil and you're running for office, you're going to jail.
Wow.
Because it's bribery.
Well, it used to be
it
that
is.
way
Yeah.
here.
It is legalized
That's
bribery.
what, that's what I would
Yeah.
have thought.
Citizen
But to
United.
get that, to try to get that understanding to Mr. and Mrs. America, that's the problem. And I can sleep better tonight knowing that we have such energetic and highly intelligent volunteers just like yourselves.
And 59% of college students and ton of young people coming out. So I know times are scary, but I think like it's about time our leaders like Bill de Blasio, our council members, come out for Bernie, because if they're worried that we're not going to come out to vote.
Let me say this right now. This has been great. and the concern
Vote for
form, thank
Bernie.
you.
Vote for Bernie.
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 Okay.
Feel the bird.
We're good. Is Molly still? Man, you're